So now with the installation finished, we can start using the PostgreSQL server. In order to making connections to the server, we need to first create a user with a username and password. Actually, during the installation, PostgreSQL created a default user called Postgres. We can use this default user to manage our databases, but I still prefer to show you the process of creating users and giving privileges to different users, as well as deleting users. I'll be doing all of this in my terminal using a command line tool called psql. But don't worry, we won't be using the terminal for too long. After I showed you about user management and how to create databases, I'll be switching to pgadmin for the rest of the course. So let's get started. So in the terminal, let's type in sudo -u postgres psql and hit enter. So now we have entered the psql command line tool. First, let's verify that we indeed have a default user called Postgres. So let's type in \du and hit enter. As you can see, it shows a list of users with all of its attributes. So right now we only have one user, which is Postgres. Now what we want to do is to create our own user. So this is going to be our first ever SQL commands in this course. This \du or anything started with a backslash is not part of the SQL language. They can only be used inside of PSQL. So in order to create a user, we use the create user keyword. So let's type in create user and then the username. I'm just gonna call it coding master. You can call it whatever you want. So coding master and then with password and then single quotes and then type in your password. So I'm just gonna say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then semicolon. So that's our complete SQL statement to create a user with password. Let's hit enter to run it. It says create role and let's type in \du again and verify that we indeed have a coding master user created. Let's take a look at our query. There are two things that I want to point out. One is by convention, we use uppercase letters to represent the keyword inside of SQL statements. So things like create user and with password, these are all SQL keywords. And we use lowercase letters to represent values that we entered about ourselves, like the username and password. And another thing is the semicolon at the end of the statement is required. So don't forget about that when you're writing queries by yourself. Now with the new user we just created, I wanted to give it some attributes. Specifically, I wanted to be able to create databases. So let's see how to do that using SQL language. So let's type in alter user and then followed by the username. In my case, it is coding master. So, and then let's type with uppercase with attribute that I wanted to have, which is create DB and then semicolon. Let's hit enter. Now it says alter role. So let's check that by typing in \du and then hit enter. So now as you can see, the coding master user have a create DB attributes. Now let me show you how to delete a user. So in order to delete user, we use the drop command. So let's type in drop user followed by the username that you wanted to drop. So finish by the semicolon. Let's hit enter. Now it says drop role. Let's type in \du to verify. So now as you can see, the coding master user is gone. Now what we want to do is I wanted to add it back. But instead of doing create a user and then alter user, I wanted to create a user, setting password, and set the attributes all in one command. So let's see how to do that. So let's do create user coding master with password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then create DB, semicolon. Let's hit enter. So now it says create role. Let's verify by typing in \du. Now, as you can see, we added coding master back with the attribute of creating databases, all using one command. So that's a little bit about the basics of user management in SQL. With that out of the way, next let's see how to create databases using SQL language. First, let me clear the screen so that we can go back to the top. So let's type in \, exclamation mark, and then clear. So then let's check what database we have right now on our server. We can do that by typing in \L and then hit enter. So now it shows a list of databases. So these are all databases that are created when we install PostgreSQL by default. Now I wanted to create my own database, and then I want to associate that database with the user that we just created. So first, let's see how to create a new database. In order to create a new database, we need to use the create database command. So let's type in create database, and then followed by the database name. I'm just gonna call it Postgres tutorial, and then finish by a semicolon, and let's hit enter. So now it says create database, and then we can check that by typing in \L again, and then hit enter. So now, as you can see, we have a new database called Postgres tutorial, and the owner is Postgres. We wanted to change the owner to the user that we just created. In my case, it is coding master. So let me show you how to switch the ownership of a database. Okay, so in order to switch the ownership of a database, we use the alter database command. So let's say alter database, followed by the database name. So Postgres tutorial, and then owner to, and then the owner that you want to transfer to, which in my case is coding master, and then semicolon. Let's hit enter. So now it altered the database. Let's verify by typing in \L again. So now, as you can see, the Postgres tutorial database owner becomes coding master. So now we have set up a new user, a new database, and we associate the new database with the new user. It's time to switch to pgadmin, the graphical user interface, for the rest of the course.